Welcome to Elliott's PT podcast. I'm here to help you find your balance and live your best life guilt-free. I don't believe there is a one-size-fits-all approach for health and fitness. We're all different and we need to find out what works for us. I'm passionate about helping people make realistic, long-term lifestyle changes that they will stick to and they will take with them forever. I don't believe in crazy diets or short-term fixes. We all need to live and find a perfect balance in diet and exercise that suits our individual needs. I want to help you find your exercise mojo, feel great and achieve wonderful things. Here is Elliott's PT podcast by Renae Elliott.
So today I wanted to talk about counting your macros and intuitive eating. Now there is lots of different thoughts on both the two concepts, but I wanted to give my opinion on where I lie between the two and what I really want for, what I hope for everybody to get from if they're doing one of my programs or they're working with me, that what I really want, that I hope that people get with through counting macros and what my views are on intuitive eating. Now, so everybody has their own perception of what they think they are. So counting macros would be what you're looking at your protein, fats, and carbs. You would have to log them in some way to work out where you're at. And so there is this macro counting. So my belief is that we count your macros. When you start learning to count your macros, it gives you such a great understanding of your food. So it makes you understand what the food is that works for you and how to make that food work for you within your lifestyle. So I don't like when people get given a food plan and you follow that. And I'll have people say to me, Renae, I can follow a food plan to a T. And that's great that you can follow a food plan, but what happens when the food plans end? What happens when in your situation that you weren't prepared for? But if you learn to understand your macros and understand your food, you can make an informed choice on what you're eating. Now, so counting, so your macros that is your macros. There is numbers that you need to reach, but we don't need to reach exactly the number. We want to get roundabout, okay? Because life is not exact. We want to get roundabout. So there are some people, or maybe if you have experience with macro counting before, that some people had you done macro counting and they turned it into a diet. And because of how maybe all the previous things that you've done, we're always, easy to make it into a diet. And I don't want that for people either. I want you we have to be roundabout, but life happens too. And the better progress you get is when you can learn to manage it while life happens. So that is kind of what macro counting is. So intuitive eating, I guess, is kind of an eating style that promotes, like, I guess, a healthy attitude towards food and body image. But you kind of, I guess that's like the opposite of a traditional diet. So it has no real guidelines about what to avoid or when or what to eat it. And it says that it teaches you that you're the best person and the only person to make these choices. So I kind of lie in between. I believe that we need to I lie in between the middle of both. So there's things I really, really like about intuitive eating, and there's things I like about macro counting as well. But I believe that we need to do the macro counting part first in order to get to the intuitive eating. So the macro counting part gives you the knowledge and the understanding of food, and in time you will be able to intuitively eat because you have that understanding of the food. So that's where I lie with it. So I don't think that we should be, like I said, how people turn the macro counting into a diet. I don't think we should, be super strict on things. I don't think that, I think that the thing I love about macros is when you start learning to understand your macros, you balance it out with your life. So when you have that knowledge of the food and what food works with you and what amount you need to eat to support your goals, then you can make that informed choice, and you can still go out. You don't have to I couldn't think of anything worse but bringing your, like a container of food out to dinner with you because you're on a diet or any of those things. You just, I really can't think of anything worse than doing that. And, yeah, like when you understand your macros, I've had so many people, they might just quickly look the menu up before they go out, and then they can make a decision on what they're going to eat roughly. Even now, certain places already have their calories and that worked out, but I don't even think you need to go that far. I just think that you can have a look at where you're going, what the menu has, then you can make a choice on what you're going to eat, and then you can kind of plan your day out. You go, oh, actually, I really, really like the look of that burger and chips, so I'm going to eat that for dinner tonight, but I'm going to plan the rest of my day out, the rest of my day before my night out, so that I'm not really, really blowing out. That's where I lie with it. So with intuitive eating, the things that I really love about intuitive eating is that food should definitely not be about guilt. So I don't think food should be about guilt at all. I don't believe in that there's good food or bad food, any of those things. I just believe that we should all find a balance. I first started macro counting when I had my babies, Charlie, so my second baby, and I wanted to lose, I knew that I wanted to lose the baby weight that I had, but I was also breastfeeding at the time. I'm not somebody to do diets because I don't really like them. I don't like restriction or any of those things, but I knew that I needed to make sure that I was fueling my body correctly, so then it wouldn't affect my milk supply. So but previous to that, I'd heard about macros, people had asked me about it, and I just thought it was too difficult. So I never spent the extra time to look into it. I thought it was too difficult to understand. And now that I understood it, and when I took the time, because I guess it was important enough to me, when I took the time to understand it, I was like, oh my God, I wish I got it before, because it is really life-changing. So that's how I first got into it. So I wanted to make sure that I was eating enough food so that I could still have a good milk supply, and I was eating correctly, and nothing was going to, my most motivation was to not affect my milk supply and still be able to become the shape that I was previous to having a baby. So that was where I was at with that. And the first day I did it, I was like, okay, I'm not going to have any chocolate. So I worked out the food, and I worked out how much food I could eat so that I could get the maximum amount of food in a day. But I didn't want to, I said I was going to not have any chocolate. And I think it lasted one day. And then I was like, oh, this sucks, because I told myself I couldn't have it. All I did was think about having chocolate since then. So I think, it lasted 1 or 2 days. And then I thought, no, this is stupid. This isn't going to work. So I then rejigged my plan, and I made it include chocolate, and I planned it around that. So, and that was fine. And I really enjoyed that. And that was what worked for me. So I don't believe there should be good or bad foods. I think there's foods that are going to support our body better. There's foods that, depending on what your goal is, that's really going to work in there. But I don't believe I don't believe if you eat out, you should feel bad for it. If you feel like you overeat, you went off plan, or, I'm doing inverted commas here. Any of those things, I don't believe that we should feel that way. I think we just eat the food and move on. I love going out. My kids, they get milkshakes, and we get hot chips, and we sit and we have them, and it's something that I love doing with them. Now, yep, the milkshakes definitely aren't perfect, and the hot chips aren't perfect either, but you know what? The time that we spend together doing that is perfect, and that's important. And so I wouldn't change that for the world, but I make my lifestyle suit in with that stuff because I have the understanding of food. So I like that intuitive eating has things like that we shouldn't have guilt with food. And the thing I also like about intuitive eating is they want you to pay attention to your body and listen to your body's cues and respect your body, all of those things. And I really like that. And we should be really, we should really be listening to our bodies as something that we teach in the Little Black Dress Project is understanding yourself and your body more and starting to pick up on cues. And a big thing of that is understanding your cycle and where your cycle's at and how you feel in different stages. So I do really like those parts of it, and that's the parts of agree. So that's what I said, I'm someone that lies in between the middle of the two, but I just wanted to give you my viewpoint on what I want for everybody. And what I want for everybody is I find that it's real freedom. It's, food freedom, no guilt, that you have an understanding of what works for your body, what makes you feel good, and that you get all this, and it does end up leading to intuitive eating. But in order to get there, you need to follow you need to get some understanding first. And by following the macros and putting it into MyFitnessPal, it is the best teaching that you are going to have, because you are going to put the food in, you are going to work out how to balance it out. And most people are undereating in one area, overeating in other, and it's working out what your balance is. But when you can work it all out yourself, you can then learn to juggle it and make it work for your lifestyle. So that is why I think we need to understand, to pay attention to your body's cues and respect it. So that is a part of intuitive eating that I really, really like. And I get people to, in the Little Black Dress, we start to whatever age you're at, whatever stage in life you're at, you will have some form of a cycle. So we want to start paying attention to that and pick up cues, because there is times of month where it is harder to lose weight. There is times of the month where you are going to feel hungrier. There are times of the month that you are going to feel more tired. And when you can pick up all those cues, you can adjust your food accordingly and not feel guilty for it. So I think that you definitely, the other thing I like about intuitive eating is you cannot tell somebody's health by looking at them. And I think it's really, everybody judges what they see and what they see in social media. And the more things I look into social media and all of that, it shocks me. Filters and all the things that people do, especially the younger people, like I was speaking to my niece the other day and she was like, oh yeah, I wouldn't do this without putting a filter on it. And I was like, I don't even know how to do that. I just all that stuff shocks me. So you definitely can't judge somebody's health by how they look. And just because somebody is thin doesn't mean they are fit or strong or any of those things. So we really shouldn't judge anybody. But I think the more that people have that understanding that obviously what you see on social media is not real, they have that understanding and what true strength is. And, true strength is listening to your body. It's learning to pick up on your cues. It's being able to, but I would prefer to be a bit bigger and know that I'm really strong and my body is really capable of doing things than be really thin, and not being able to run or not be able to lift a weight. But that's what I prefer. Again, we are all different. What I found really interesting was as part of my classes, I teach a class called Metafit, which is a HIIT class. And it is a really, really great workout. If you haven't tried it, come and try it. It's amazing. It originates from the UK. So when I had the owner or the person that developed Metafit, he was out here in Australia. So I went to visit. I went to a talk that he was doing. So I went to a talk that he was doing, and he was talking about when he went to the US to promote Metafit. So he went to the US to promote Metafit, and he went to an agency and he hired fitness people, or what he thought was fitness people, to obviously be the demos of the exercises for the duration of the thing. So he went to this agency that you go to, and he hired these fitness people, and that's what he said. So the idea was during that, so they were females, they were obviously like models of some sort, but he specifically asked that they had to, obviously be able to do the exercises. And the next day, none of them turned up. And none of them turned up because none of them could do the exercises. And they were all so sore from doing what they did on the first day. But even in the first day, they couldn't last through any of the activities. So it was kind of like an eye-opener that he specifically asked for these people, these things, but they actually couldn't even do the activity. And yes, they may have been thin looking or toned looking, because obviously there would have been a certain aesthetic that they would have had to look like, but they couldn't actually do the activities. So that's what I want people to, that you cannot judge somebody by looking at them. I really love Taryn Brumfitt, and if you haven't watched the movie Embrace, I would recommend to watch it, the documentary. I'm sure it's on Stan or Netflix. It's on one of those that you can watch it. But she had, as a quick overview, she had it before and after, but it was the opposite way. So she went into a body competition. She realized when she got into that bodybuilding competition that she didn't want to lead that lifestyle. So then after she put a photo of her in the body competition as the before, and then her and after was her when she'd put on some weight, and she was leading a life that she was really happy with. And there's lots of people that have said terrible things to her, that she's fat and she's whatever else, and she's unhealthy and all of those things. And I don't know, she's maybe, I don't even know what size she is, but not that that matters. But the people that are all making those comments, like, how could you be judging that by how someone looks when she can run a marathon and she can do ocean swims and all those other things that she can do, but just because she doesn't look like the typical size. So that's me sidetracked there totally. But what I like about intuitive eating, and what I hope through my programs that we run, is that people can learn to love their bodies and accept themselves for who they are. I guess that I don't like that much about intuitive eating, and where so this is where that more on the side of the macro counting is. It's they believe that you should never intentionally lose weight. I think that we all, and I guess this could be a touchy subject for people. I think that there is times where that your weight can be risking your life if you are overweight. So I believe, and I really believe in aging, and that people want to age well and be able to do activities. And sometimes when you're overweight, you can't do things that you would like to do. So the weight is the thing that's holding you back. By maybe going down these beliefs of that, I just want to intuitively and eat and not follow my weight or not check with the scales, all of those things, I don't think it helps you that much in, because I think deep down, we get so, I'm trying to work out how to word this correctly without, but I'm just going to say how I feel. We do, we have women come to me, they join the classes, they speak to me on email, all of those things. So we have them all, and generally all of them want to look a certain way. But I feel that sometimes they go down these rabbit holes of this, I'm just going to intuitively eat because I don't want a restriction, or I don't want any of that. But if you don't have the knowledge behind you, the goal is, if deep down people there's a size or shape somebody would like to be. And if you want that goal, then there needs to be some form of a parameter. There needs to be data to look at, data to go off of in order to get there. So I do think that people should, I do think that there is a time in people's life where they do need to, they could be losing weight because they, might not feel comfortable with themselves. And maybe it's the weight that's holding them back in more ways than one. It means that they're not doing things they want to do with their kids. It means that they don't go out, or they don't let their husbands see them naked, or they do all these different things because they feel ashamed of how they look. And so I think there is a place where it is important to, if you are feeling any of those things, if you don't feel comfortable in your skin, then you should make it, then there is a possibility that you should make a change, but it's only going to be for the better. And, like when I remember having Charlie, and I remember going out with my friends, and we'd met these friends down the Gold Coast, and we went away, and everything I put on didn't fit me. And I just felt terrible. I felt uncomfortable when I sat down. My jeans were falling down, because they didn't fit me properly. They were too tight around my thighs. I didn't feel comfortable in anything I was wearing. So for me, I didn't feel happy. So I was uncomfortable. So it was important for me to lose weight at that point. I didn't lose it in a stupid way. I lost it by counting my macros. I didn't go on a crazy diet. I didn't restrict myself. None of those things. I don't believe in those things, but I do believe that there is a time in our life where, there is a time like there. I had extra weight on. I felt uncomfortable. I didn't feel comfortable in my skin. I knew that I'd been another size where I did feel better. I had more energy. I could do more things, and so I do think there is there is a point where we should intentionally lose weight. Other people say, like that they don't like to jump on the scales or any of those things. But I actually think the scale is a great tool, and I did a whole podcast on it because I think the scale can keep you in line. Now, if you are somebody that leans towards eating disorders and becomes obsessive over it, then maybe that's not great for you. But I view the scale as a tool, and it's a tool to remind me. Now, I just had somebody the other day that, they hadn't gone on the scale for a long time, and they'd realized they'd put on a lot of weight. Now, if they had got on the scale sooner, they could have maybe stopped themselves. So instead of putting on, say, 20 kilos, they may have realized it at 10 and pulled their head in. So that's why I do like the scales, and I think that it's a great tool to use. One of the many tools, that you can use. And I also try to promote and teach everybody to have this understanding of all these tools and all these data points that need to all come in together to get you the result. Not just viewing on one, because there could be a time that your scale weight might stay the same or be up, but you've actually lost weight. You've actually put on muscle and you've lost fat. So that's the things that I don't like, So I also think that some things that intuitive eating promote is that you should honor your hunger in a way that detaches yourself from, like a higher thinking. When people say first start with me and we learn, they might have to be refeeding or any of those other things, you aren't going to feel hungry. So you might be like, well, I don't feel hungry until I don't, like somebody this morning was eating 1,100 calories. And now her body needed, for her body to function optimally, because she had a body scan and she had a high amount of muscle, her body needed 1,600 calories. But she didn't feel hungry because when you don't eat enough, things start shutting off. And things start slowing down to compensate for the amount of food that you're eating. So, so if you're in that stage, then you're not going to be hungry. So I think there's a time where you need to start to understand your food, understand your body, and start to learn what fuel it needs. I have someone else that she's doing a program and she's just started to eat more food, and she's got great definition. Everything's coming out in her arms and all of that. Now, she didn't feel hungry before. She didn't think she was missing out. But in order to get that result that she needed to start eating more. And in order to get that, she had to start understanding her macros and what her body needed. So I guess that's where I kind of lie between counting macros and intuitive eating. So I think that, intuitive eating promotes a really great, healthy attitude towards food and body images. I don't think you should stuff your face full of food. I do think you should listen to your body, but I think that there is a balance that you need to find out. And I hope for everybody that does the programs with me or that comes with me on their journey, or brings me on their journey with them to help them, that they can have this understanding of food, have this knowledge and understanding of food, understanding of their body, and they can bring it all together, and then they can follow their intuition on what works best for them. But I think in order to get there, there is a process. And I don't think you can just start doing that. I think there's a process that you need to get there. And that is what I teach in programs like the Little Black Dress Project and through Macro Balance and all of that, is that you can learn to understand your body more, what works for you. But you need to use data points. And so the macro counting is the data points. It's part one data point that you need to start, listening. And over the years, I've learned so much about my body. But I couldn't, I think I would say that I intuitively eat now. No, I do intuitively eat now, but I have the understanding. And if I notice that I have maybe, say, put on some weight, or if I maybe would like to put on some muscle, or have a real bit of a goal in mind, then I will go back to macro counting, because then I've got my data points and I've got my information that I can look at. But most of the time I just intuitively eat, but I have a great understanding of food, and I have done this for years. I've done this for so many years, and how I eat now as to how I ate 10 years ago is like day and night. But now I have such a better understanding of my body. I have such a better understanding of what really makes me feel good, and I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. I make these choices I value how I feel so much, energy levels, all of that stuff. So I really, really value that. So that's the most important thing to me, and that's what I put first. That's why I do the things that I do, because I want to put all that stuff first. So that's just a little bit about my thoughts between intuitive eating and macro counting. And if people hear the word macro counting and they think, oh, that's just another diet, I don't want to do that, I urge you to rethink about it, or look at how I teach it, because I don't teach it as a diet. I use it as a data point for you to learn about food. And everybody that has, and sometimes so many people, you learn so much stuff about food, it is life-changing. It is and this is the knowledge that you take with you forever. People, they've learned this stuff and then they go, I never realized that. I never realized there was that much in this food. I never realized, then you start to go, I remember somebody first, she was like, I used to eat half an avocado, but then with the combination of the other things, or a full avocado or something, the combination of the other things she ate in a day, it really blew her fats out. But then she realized she could have, again, because it depends on what else you eat, could have the quarter of the avocado and she still felt satisfied. So it's that type of learning, and you learn to manage it yourself. So you have the understanding, you don't just follow what somebody else tells you to do. Because when you have that understanding, then that's what you can carry with you for the rest of the life. So you won't have no yo-yoing, no putting weight on, losing it off, none of those things. You just learn to balance. You understand it so much that you have that balance. So that is my thoughts on that. And, we do have our next cycle of the Little Black Dress project coming up on the 18th of June that it starts. So if you would like to be the first to know when the wait list, when the doors open, you need to join the wait list. And in the program is how I teach you all these things about the macro counting, understanding your body better, so it can lead to that you have all the knowledge and you are empowered, and then you can just follow your intuition and really listen to your body and fuel it the way that you want to. So if you do want to do that, make sure that you join the waitlist. I will post the link below so that people can do that. And I look forward to speaking to you all again soon. All right, bye.
Thanks for listening to the Elliott's PT podcast. I hope you have been able to find this information of use to you. If you know someone who might enjoy this podcast, please share it with them, and ensure that you subscribe so you can be the first to know when new podcasts are released. If you have the time to leave a 5-star review, that would be amazing, and it would be greatly appreciated. If you do so, please screenshot and share onto any of our socials and tag us. Then email the screenshot to hello@elliotspt.com, and we will send you a free gift to your inbox. Thanks so much. Have an amazing day. Speak soon.